Hey guys, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Flash Season 6 review series, and today I am going to be talking about episode 16, So Long and Goodnight, and this episode was really emotional and very intense, and a lot of the emotional scenes mainly involved Grant Gustin, Candice Patton and Jesse L. Martin, who in my opinion were the standouts for this episode, and they kicked a lot of ass, and they are the reasons why, in my opinion, they're the heart and soul of the show and have been since day one, and they proved that to me once again, and this episode was really good. And we also saw the return of an old friend slash villain. That's none other than Ragdoll, and Ragdoll was as creepy and as sinister as you'd expect, and this was really good. I really enjoyed this a lot. I think the highlight for me was the end, which I will get to in a moment, but the ending for me was really emotional, and it really punches you right in the gut, especially if you hadn't known what was going on before, and say like you watched this for the first time, you would have been like, what's the hell just happened? But if you've known everything that's happened before, then it shouldn't come as much of a surprise, but it still knocks you for six, so to speak. So, as we know already, Iris is still trapped in the mirror, and now Camilla is trapped in the mirror with her, but her whereabouts are still unknown. So now there is a mirror Iris still pretending to be Barry's Iris, and now we have a mirror Camilla. So these two are working for Eva, who is also trapped in the mirror, and she's the Mirror Master for this season. So they're working for her for a secret mission, and they have special plans. We don't know what those special plans are yet, but so far that's what's been going on. And before I get into talking about this episode, the whole Mirror Iris thing, it was okay for maybe one episode, but I feel it's starting to drag on a bit, because you would have thought Barry would notice something is a bit off, but what do I know? But I just feel it's dragging on a bit. I mean, something that could have been wrapped up for maybe one episode, or maybe even two, but I feel that they're just dragging it out, and it's not really working for me. But there are some other cool stuff going on that makes up for that. So, with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about episode 16. So Long and Goodnight. So this episode opens up with Carver putting a hit out on Joe West. Now, as we all know, Joe West has been looking to try and bring Carver down for quite a while, but he hasn't had anything concrete, so Carver obviously knows about this, so he's looking to have Joe West taken out by any means necessary. Meanwhile, we see Team Flash is playing Pictionary at the West House, and Joe gets a call back to the Carver case. Singh tells him he needs to step back from it. Joe, of course being Joe, refuses to back down and will do anything to bring Carver down by any means necessary. Meanwhile, we see Cisco meet up with Ralph, and Ralph explains that he's been tracking Sue Dearborn and has figured out her next target. Turns out Sue's been robbing banks. Cisco agrees to help Ralph stop her. Joe is driving when his car suddenly no longer responds to him, and it starts racing out of control. Joe gets out just in time before the car crashes and explodes. It is enough to prompt Singh to want to put Joe into witness protection, but Joe talks him out of it. Joe remains on the Carver case. Cisco and Ralph crash the investor brunch, with Cisco running into January Galore, one of the arms dealers from Barry and Sisko's James Bond style mission. But it's not the real January, it's Sue in disguise, and after some witty banter she manages to escape. While Joe is interrogating Sunshine, Ragdoll, who is hidden in a firebox, shows up. He deflects Joe's bullets, but while the Flash shows up to help, he isn't fast enough to stop Joe from getting injured. Barry tries to convince Joe to back off the case because he's not fast enough to protect him now. Now, for those of you who may or may not remember, the reason why Barry's speed is dropping is because the Speed Force is dead, so he no longer can tap into the Speed Force and he has no connection, so he only has a little bit of speed left, so he's just getting slower and slower and slower. Joe decides to confront Carver himself, and Carver ends up exposing himself. Joe was recording the whole conversation. Yeah, smart guy. But Carver counters with a localized EMP pulse and destroys it, and further threatens Joe and his family. Barry pushes him to consider witness protection. Sue is casing her next mark when Ralph shows up and busts her. It turns out that someone is extorting Sue's parents, and that's none other than Carver. She's investigating him too. Ralph offers to help her, but after a bit of banter between the two, she gives him the diamond she previously stole and tells him to look into it. Allegra and Nash pledge to keep Cecile safe, but after Allegra tells Nash to just go, she's attacked by Ragdoll. Nash shows up and tries to stop him, but to no avail, and the villain goes after Cecile next and kidnaps her. Barry and Joe go to rescue her. Joe triggers a bomb and Cecile reveals she's sitting on a pressure bomb. If she gets up, even just for a second, it will explode. Joe manages to trade places with her, realising the bomb could destroy him as well. Flash rushes to Joe and Cecile. He speeds Cecile to safety and races back to save Joe, only to find that Joe managed to save himself and is now more than ready to go into witness protection. Meanwhile, in the mirror world, Iris tells Eva she's found a way out. Iris tells Eva Barry's the Flash and that he might be the key to getting them out of the mirror world. Oh, Iris, if only you knew. Once alone, Eva immediately reaches out to mirror Iris and tells her to drain Barry of his speed in order to protect her husband. And it also turns out that Singh is a mirror version as well, and he is working for Eva as well. Eva makes herself known to Carver. It turns out she has an axe to grind with him ever since he left her in the mirror world and he took over her company and technology. And the next scene we get, and this scene was quite possibly Grant Gustin and Candice Patton's best scene. I mean, they've had a lot of great scenes over the course of the show's run, but this one was definitely up there. We see Iris, or should we say Mirror Iris, argue with Barry because he didn't race to come to get her when Joe went off to witness protection, and he explains that he won't use his speed to find her dad so she can say goodbye. She really goes into one and tears him apart verbally, and she throws him out of their home and locks the door. Yeah, this scene really packed a mean punch because Barry doesn't realise that that's not his Iris, and the way Candice Patton portrayed that cold nature was just top notch. And yeah, these two, with the right material, they can kick a lot of ass, and and we've seen that before. This scene was very well written, very well put together, and very, very emotional, and that's pretty much how this episode ends. We see Barry very quietly and sadly walk away from their apartments, and yeah, even that made me a bit emotional. But the one thing that really annoyed me, but at the same time upset me, was it's Barry's apartment. He bought it, so it's just a minor thing, but I couldn't help but read into it and think, what the hell? That's Barry's apartment. But yeah, overall, very good episode, very emotional episode, and we are just 3 episodes away from wrapping up this review series. And as I said earlier, the whole Mirror Iris thing is really starting to drag on a bit, and I really hope they do wrap it up very soon, because it's starting to drag the show down just a little bit. But as I said before, there are lots of other cool stuff going on, so that kind of makes up for it. So, I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you think of this episode? Did you think it was good? Do you think Barry will eventually find out that Iris is a mirror version? What's your thoughts on the end scene where Mirror Iris throws Barry out of his own apartment? Do you think that was a bit too much, or do you think that could have been done a different way? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will be back next time for another edition of the Season 6 review series, where I'll be talking about episode 17. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe.